Hi, I'm Jeff Peshoff, and I've been a small group leader here in Ruston at the church for many, many years, and started actually in college when I was here at Louisiana Tech and leading small groups. But I still have a lot to learn. But what I want to talk about today is how to properly lead small groups in terms of asking questions. And I think most of us know that when we're leading groups that we're trying to facilitate connection and community and care while participating in God's work, growing everyone in Christ-like maturity. That's what we're all trying to do. But because there's so much that we sometimes want to impart to someone, all the things that we've learned, it's really a temptation just to sort of tell everything when we're in a group context. We've got a captive audience right there, and there is a tendency to want to do that. I know, at least in my own life, that's how I tend to want to do things, just kind of tell everything I know. And that's really not an effective way to facilitate group leadership. Early in my career as a sales engineer, I was invited to man a booth at a trade show. It's a little more sophisticated than that, but for that purpose is what we'll say. And in that context, customers would come up and you would have products on display. And when we did the training on how to interact with customers in that context, a lot of times the trainers would say, hey, look, whatever you do, don't ask the customer if you can help them. Don't ask the customer if you can say something to them about the product. Instead, ask a more thought-provoking question like, what was it about the product that caught your eye? What was it about the functionality that you thought was something that you would be interested in knowing more about? And that way, the customer had a better idea of answering a more thoughtful question instead of just saying yes or no. And so we can use that same kind of training in small group leadership whenever we're thinking about how to ask the right questions. Rather than asking just yes/no questions, ask something that really provokes thought. Now, fortunately, as a small group leader, you weren't selling at a trade show booth, but we can see from that example how we ask questions in certain contexts is key. Most group leaders understand that, or have at least heard that to achieve the goal of fostering maturity and care and connection, we need to be really thoughtful about how to facilitate good discussion in the group. I would love to hear from other group leaders on how you do this well, because I'm still learning. But here's some tips I've learned from others on how to ask good questions and to facilitate good discussion. If you're having your first few times together and you haven't built a level of trust yet, we'll call that level 1. The first questions might be icebreakers or warm-up questions. Examples might be, what was your earliest memory in life? Who would say has been the biggest hero in your life and why? What was the one thing you never did in high school you wish you would have done? These questions can get individuals to open up and share things about themselves. After some trust is developed in the group, second level questions like the following become possible. If you had the power to change yourself in any way, what are things you would not change about yourself? Imagine God talking to the angels and speaking highly of you. In his proud fatherly way, what would he say to communicate he was pleased with you? Then there are what I would call third level questions that get a bit more personal. These are questions that we've earned the right to ask. These get to a place of real challenge with people. Some examples might be, when did you last experience the temptation to lash out at someone, and how did you handle it? A follow-up question might be, why did this particular moment make you angry? Another example for a gender-segregated group might be, how do you handle temptation to sexual sin? And follow-up, why are God's boundaries in this area important for you and the world in general? Yet another might be, how do you navigate the tension in your own mind and heart when contemporary thinking or even scientific research appears to set against the Christian worldview? Be prepared to give some examples to kind of facilitate that discussion. So finally, if you're a person like me who has a hard time coming up with good questions, here's some other tips. Think about the topic for discussion ahead of time and how to frame good questions. If you're discussing a message given on Sunday morning, there's great questions right on the back of the outline that you get when you walk in the door. Whoever put those questions together does a great job. Most small group material has good discussion questions built into it, but you should use them with the levels in mind that we discussed. And I recommend a small book entitled 201 Great Questions by Jerry Jones. And in fact, the small group leaders, as a gift of my appreciation to you, I would love for you to have a copy. So let me know if you would like one. But to tell you the secret, most all the questions I use in the examples in this book came from the examples in this book. So there's obviously a lot more to what we do with the answers to those questions when real transparency starts to take place. But if you're growing in your own trust in God, He will be faithful to give you the appropriate response. Thank you.